Hello and welcome to this week's instalment of the Gersnet Podcast. Well, it's been a week of mixed emotions for Rangers fans, with a heroic performance in Russia securing European football up until Christmas, before the unbeaten run came to an end on Sunday over in the east of the city. We'll take a look back at all the major talking points from the two biggest games of Gerrard's managerial career so far, as well as discussing the challenge that faces the squad in Europe. And later, we'll be casting a critical eye over the shape of the squad following the closure of the transfer window and discussing the new deal for Alfredo Morelos. My name's Ross Bennett and I'll be your Gersnet Podcast host this week. And joining me tonight, we've got two of our regulars. First up, we have David Fraser. David, how are you doing this evening?
Not too bad considering the result, Ross. How are you doing?
Not so bad. Also returning to the podcast this week from the excellent Four Lads Had a Dream blog, it's Stevie Clifford. Stevie, how are you doing?
Evening, guys. Yeah, we're here. Disappointed, but not disheartened, I think, overall.
It feels a wee bit fresh. But certainly feeling a lot better this evening than we did after some of those Old Firms from last season. I think the Old Firm is the best place to kick off and address this straight away. Obviously, first Old Firm game of the season, first Old Firm game of Steven Gerrard's career, first Old Firm game for a large number of the squad today for Rangers, but importantly not for a number of the Celtic players, and that experience seems to tell today. We went down 1-0, although in truth in that first 45 minutes it certainly could have been a few more than just the one. Maybe saw a wee bit of a revival from the Rangers boys after the goal went in, but by that time it was probably the damage was done. David, coming to you first, what was your overall impression of the game today?
Overall, disappointing, Ross. I thought the performance was lacking. Whether you can put that down to being tired from the game on Thursday night, I don't know, but we just seemed to be off the pace. I don't necessarily buy into what people are saying online that the tactics are necessarily wrong, but overall just a deflation after Thursday night, I guess.
Deflation's a good word for it, because it was, it's been an incredible week. Obviously, two more signings coming into the squad, holding on to Morelos, and progressing into the group stages of the Europa League, which is an incredible achievement. We'll give that a lot of time later on in the show. So tonight, coming away and not being able to take anything away from Parkhead is really deflating and really disappointing. Stevie, how about yourself? What did you make of the game?
I always try and look for the positives, touch on that in a wee second, but first and foremost, disappointed. We just never expressed ourselves properly. And something you asked me a couple of weeks ago on the pod we were on of what we could do better. And I said that we needed to move the ball better and we needed to move the ball quicker. It was no more evident than today. We were terrible in possession. A couple of times that we nicked the ball back and we weren't brave on it. We weren't good enough. And we did not, for any period of the game, of the first half rather, we didn't at all get them turned, which I don't, like Davey said a wee bit there, I don't blame that on the tactics. We have to trust the players out there to be brave in the ball and pass and move the ball quickly and properly. Our wide men, Barisic especially, we just did not do the things that we've been doing well recently. And that's what cost us. Positives were that we didn't crumble. We were resolute. We were brave in defence. And we looked comfortable. We looked well drilled and our shape was good. Aside of that, the positives are thin on the ground for me. Maybe dissect it more slightly in a bit, but yeah, I'm disappointed. Of course we are. We've been beat by our biggest rivals. It doesn't get better on a Sunday evening after that, I'm afraid.
No, absolutely. It's an interesting point actually that you make there about it was, that we didn't move the ball quick enough, and the first half especially it was sluggish, and Gerrard himself in post matches said that we didn't play football enough. We held our shape okay, and we were resolute, and we withheld a lot of pressure that first 45, but we never actually did the things that we know we can do well. This side has proved that they are a good footballing team, and they can move the ball, and they can be a real threat going forward, and we didn't see any of that. And what was quite evident for me today was that we seemed to be lacking something in midfield. if we held firm at the back, but there was nowhere for the ball to go, so there was often a long punt up top, trying to find Morelos, trying to find Lafferty, both of whom their hold-up play wasn't really as good as it should have been today. And we didn't keep the ball in midfield anywhere near enough. And I wonder how much an impact today it was not having Koulibaly, because it seemed like the kind of game that he was cut out for. So hopefully we'll see him back soon. Stevie, you said there that we weren't moving the ball about quick enough. I wonder how much of this is down to kind of the circumstance and the context of it. Do you think that playing a game, a several-hour flight away in Russia only 3 days ago, how much of an impact has that had on today's result?
I think it does have an impact, but I'm not going to use it as an excuse. Gerrard said a couple of weeks ago that wasn't going to be an excuse for us, and it shouldn't be. Being tired does not stop you making a 5-yard pass. And I think, and I've watched it today, I've watched bits of it again on the replay, because I like to dissect things and see where we went wrong. And I'm going to make a point here, and I don't know if anybody will agree with it, but it's something that struck me. The players looked so consumed today by stopping them that that was a primary function. Especially the midfield three, Ejaria, Jack and Arfield. They did a power of work, a power of running on the back of a really difficult shift on Thursday. So that's to be commended. But they were more consumed for me with stopping Celtic than actually doing what they should be doing when they have stopped them. Being brave, making the passes, making our triangles. There was no overlaps on the wide play. We didn't get the players involved that we should have done. And I cannot for the life of me believe that Steven Gerrard set us up to do that. We set up to do what we did in the second half. And it's ironic that we got caught by a goal that we actually set ourselves up to do ourselves at the other end. Thursday was massive for us. I mean, performance-wise, we were heroic when we went to 9 men especially, but Thursday's been and gone. If the players were tired and if it took that much out of them, then he has to rotate the squad. Something I want to touch on a wee bit later as well is Gerrard's use of the squad. But it's a factor. Is it a valid excuse? It's not for me. We shouldn't make excuses.
I think it's a fair point, but I mean, you're right there saying that the midfield, they did a power run, and I just wonder how much it's taken out of them mentally. But no, you're right. It's not an excuse, and the manager doesn't see it as an excuse. The fans will never accept it as an excuse. Going over to Russia is an opportunity, not a hindrance. David, what about experience? How much does experience count in these games? I mentioned at the intro there that there was a large number of Rangers players making their Old Firm debut, whereas this was the exact same Celtic side that lined up against us in the 5-0 defeat at the end of last season. How much does experience count in the Old Firm derby?
Experience is key, Ross. It's not just in the Old Firm derby. Celtic have got experience of playing high-pressure games midweek and then at the weekend. That's something that's obviously new to the players playing in a Rangers team. I disagree slightly with what Stevie's saying there. I think you can get tired expending a lot of mental energy. Obviously, the other night, they played a significant period of the match down to 10 men. They also played a significant period of the match down to 9 men. Couple that with league games where they've played with less than 11 men and a full complement of players. So I think the toll that was taken by that was laid bare today. Another thing was the how fluid Celtic are. The Rangers midfield really seemed to struggle to cope with that rather. And I agree with you entirely that Lassana Coulibaly would have probably made a difference in there in terms of his mobility. But experience, that's something that they're going to need to get up to speed with rather quick. Obviously, Ovie Ejaria is young in terms of his first team career, same with Ryan Kent. But I concur with what Stevie said, that when we're going back to front on a lot of occasions and the ball didn't really stick, I think a lot of Rangers players just didn't play well today. I think it was just one game too many.
Absolutely. One game too many is a really good way to put it. And it's the game's come absolutely at the wrong time for us, because it's been such a hectic run of games that we probably didn't quite anticipate. I don't think many people predicted that we would get all the way to the playoff round of the Europa League, and so I think we all remember when these fixtures were announced, and we saw the opening 4 league fixtures and 3 really tough games in there. I think we all expected it to be difficult, but it's probably that difficulty's been a wee bit compounded by circumstance, and that's not a gripe, because I am, there's no one more delighted than me that we've had the opportunity to play all these European matches, and obviously we're going to get to play even more. It's just circumstance has made the game today, what was already a massive challenge, has made it even bigger. But David, saying that, we've had humiliating results against Celtic over the past couple of seasons, and we've had better Rangers sides than this one, more experienced Rangers sides than this one, go to Parkhead and come away with worse than a 1-0 defeat. Can you see improvements in this squad from the team that was lining up a year ago?
Definitely. The performance, albeit Rangers weren't very good today. The team, generally speaking, didn't play well. Individuals didn't play well. There's no doubt it's night and day. But if you look at it on the flip side, they missed an absolute sitter. They've hit the bar twice. They've hit the post once, and Alan McGregor touched one on the bar. So the score line could have been far heavier, and I think it would be remiss of us to just completely airbrush that out of the analysis of the game. Yes, we've came in a relative distance in a short space of time. This is obviously a new team, a new management team who are just getting used to working with each other. So I think credit where credit's due. The first hurdle's been passed in terms of making it to the Europa League group stages. But the league campaign has stuttered and faltered slightly. I mean, that's borne out by the fact they've only amassed 5 points out of possible 12. So they're going to need to get experience and up to speed and use the experiences of playing in high pressure games. In this case, this season, Thursday to Sunday, and making sure that they don't make errors that are largely self-inflicting. I'm not saying that they shot themselves in the foot today. They didn't by any manner of means, but they're going to need to get up to speed and live with the pressure of winning every match. And some players will be able to deliver on it. Some players will find it hard to do it, and it might need to be dragged through by their teammates, and others won't be able to make it. But it's too early to judge on that, I would say. But certainly, it was, they avoided another thrashing today, which I guess is the only silver lining to an otherwise dark cloud.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. You mentioned there credit where credit's due, but let's not pretend that this was a strong display. I'll be honest, I was bitterly disappointed at halftime, relieved and chuffed to get in at nothing each at halftime, but I thought the performance in the first 45 was shocking. And fine, big trip to Russia midweek, hectic schedule, all the rest of it, naivete maybe, or inexperience at least, and in a very hostile atmosphere that's more hostile than it's ever been. But actually, in terms of playing football in the first half, I thought we were really poor and really disappointing. I wonder, if we would be being more critical, especially not just today, but looking at the league table so far, thinking we've amassed 5 points. Would we be more critical of the team if it was not a new manager and if it was not Steven Gerrard? If Graham Murty had put that, a Graham Murty side puts that performance in today, I think he'd be being slaughtered. But I think Steven Gerrard is still sort of getting away with a wee bit because he's new, because it's all exciting. And you're right, they still need time to work together, to get to know each other a bit better, to trust each other. There have been encouraging signs, but I think days like today remind us that it's still a work in progress and that we are not the finished article, and this is going to be a long, hard season. Now, today, for me, the main talking point, obviously, there's only one goal in the game, and a big talking point was there a foul on Ryan Jack in the lead up to the goal, which is being hotly debated, obviously, in the media and everywhere else. Stevie, what was your take on it? Should a foul have been given in the build-up to the Celtic goal today?
Yes, absolutely a foul. Ryan Jack jumps and his standing leg is taken away by a right boot. It's a swipe, takes him out. It actually drags him away as he falls. It's a clear foul. The fourth official is telling the referee it's a foul. And I'll make this point again. I've made it about Willie Collum before. Willie Collum does not referee a game. He referees the occasion. He knows fine well if he gives a free kick there, we're in a dangerous position outside the box. That kind of hostile atmosphere, he bottles it. He doesn't give it. Likewise, there was a similar situation where Morelos was tripped off the ball as well. Doesn't give that free kick either. That's right on the edge of our box. We're in an attacking position. You go up the other end, Ryan Christie with his best Olympic dive, and they immediately get a free kick at the edge of the box, and out comes a card for Golson. Now you can tell by the reaction of the players around it as well. Everybody stopped when Ryan Jack went down because it was a free kick. Willie Collum, I'm sorry to say it, it's not an excuse. It's a valid point. The major talking point in the game, and he got it wrong again. And it's not the first time it's happened to us, and it won't be the last.
David, how did you see it? Do you agree with Stevie there that it was a foul? And if it was a foul, the referee's seeing it once, he's seeing it quickly. Is there any leeway, any room for doubt, or was it a stick-on foul?
100% it was a foul. I've not watched it back, so I couldn't recall exactly Willie Collum's positioning, but it's a foul. You can dissect it, you can go through it, backwards, forwards, sideways. It's a foul. He should have blown up for it. And as Stevie says, it would have been on the edge of their box. It would have been a chance to Rangers, and it's cost us. I mean, the managers quite rightly came out and made mention of it, and yeah, it's just another example of substandard refereeing in this country, which we've spoke at length last season about, Ross.
Aye, it's incompetence, isn't it? It's incompetence. And what Stevie's mentioned there, I've seen that being written, and I know that Gerrard has mentioned that the fourth official was shouting down his mic, foul, foul, foul. And if that's the case, if that turns out to be true, and I've got no reason to doubt it, so if that turns out to be true, that the fourth official is letting the referee know that there's a foul, and Celtic go up the other end of the pitch and score a goal from it, it's absolutely scandalous. But the narrative this season has been set that if any decision goes against Rangers, and if Rangers or if Steven Gerrard come out and say that a decision's gone against us, we're painted with a paranoia brush now. That's the way that the media is spinning things after a couple of weeks ago, when we had a couple of shocking refereeing performances, and Gerrard immediately called it out. We're being called paranoid, and it's silly, and it's delusional, and that's the way it's been spun. And if it really is the case that the fourth official's telling the referee it's a foul, the referee ignores the fourth official, Celtic go up the other end of the pitch and score the winning goal from that, I think it's absolutely scandalous. But of course, you won't hear anything from the media about that because it doesn't fit the narrative. David, we've mentioned there obviously that the performance wasn't what we've come to expect from this side. We can take into account inexperience. We can take into account, a difficult away game in Russia, maybe a bit of a Euro hangover, mental fatigue, whatever it might be. But what does Steven Gerrard need to learn in order to improve for the next time we face Celtic? And we're facing them 4 times a season at the very least. What does he need to learn? Where does he need to improve to make sure that they don't get the better of us again this season?
Well, that's difficult to assess, Ross. Like Stevie, Stevie Clifford, that is, I don't believe that he sent the team out to play in the way that they did. I think if you look at some of Ryan Jack's time on the ball, he looked jittery, he looked nervous. He didn't look his usual assured self in tight areas when someone was closing him down. I think that how Rangers could improve will be down largely to who Stevie can select his team from. Obviously, we suffered today with a couple of absences, which probably upset the flow of the team slightly. And again, I think, we can go into this and look for reasons why we didn't play. We just didn't play. Kyle Lafferty had a poor game. The chances that we had, Alfredo Morelos used his derriere to make Boyata slip, made his way into the box and basically shot straight at Craig Gordon. So I think that, just too many players were off the boil today. And again, I make mention of it that the Celtic formation is pretty fluid. The line-up was a back four when required, but more often than not they go to a three, which leaves them with five in the middle of the park, sometimes six when Logic's come back to crowd out the middle of the park. And Rangers didn't really come up with any answers. Now, whether the players are maybe not responding to instructions as well as they might due to tiredness, whether that be mental fatigue or just physical tiredness, I'm not too sure. But I think that if they're more fresher in future games against Celtic and other teams at the top of the league for that matter, that will play a large part in determining how we look to improve in a match of such magnitude.
I think it's very well put. Obviously, today was a slightly interesting event, not just on the park, but off the park as well, because it was the first time that we've gone there with such a small allocation of tickets. I'm sure everyone's aware, obviously, of the history of we cut their allocation so that we didn't have to give them the Broomlin every time. Celtic responded by cutting our allocation as well. So I think it was something like 800 tickets that we were given for the game today, which, there's two sides to the argument of us taking the step to cut their allocation, because everyone obviously knew that they would immediately retaliate and do the same thing. And a lot of people have been left unhappy that they can't go and support the team, and suspected that it might have a negative impact if we had such a small presence in the stadium. Stevie, with that being borne out today, is it too early to say, or do you think that maybe having a reduced allocation and only having a few hundred Rangers fans, will that have made an impact on the players today? No,
I don't believe so at all. I don't think it made a difference when we went to Maribor. I don't think it made a difference when we were in Russia or Croatia, etc. The players should be concentrating on what goes on the pitch. You asked Davey a question there about what we need to do better and what Gerrard need to learn. We as a squad, as a team going forward, when it comes to these kind of games, we need to have some balls. It's all right being defensive and being able to contain and being able to do our job properly that way. But see, when we get on the ball, we need to be brave. We need to make it happen, and we need to trust the players around us and move the ball and turn the opposition. We didn't turn Celtic today until we pressed slightly. Candace was on and made our best pass of the game with a one-touch pass into Tavernier, and we split them wide open. And we had a chance to equalise in the last minute or so of normal time. Going forward, and when we play them again, it's okay to try and nullify them. We get that. They're a good side. I don't care what anyone says. We need to recognise that. They're a good side. They're a fluid side, as Davey points out. They're very well drilled and organised. But we can break them down, and we can turn them, and we can attack them like we can do with any other teams. But in order to do that, you need to trust your peers next to you. We didn't trust each other today. We weren't confident on the ball. We didn't move it quick enough. We did not do the things that we do well. Stop concentrating on the opposition as much and concentrate on ourselves. Get ourselves drilled. We want to know what's going to take to beat them and be better. That's what we need to do. And it has absolutely nothing to do with, only in my opinion, may I add, how many fans we've got on the ground. It doesn't matter if there's 1 or 10,000 Rangers fans. I expect better from them than we got today. And that requires bravery. And it requires us to be more fluid, and it requires us to be more ballsy on the ball and going forward and have confidence in each other. I expect better next time we play them and next time we play in general.
See, Stevie, tonight you've now said a couple of things that are making me slightly nervous. You said that the players didn't trust each other, and I think that was quite evident today. You're spot on. The players didn't trust each other today, and they weren't brave enough today. You've also said that it looks like the managers set the players up in a certain way to play in a certain style, and they haven't done that. So players not trusting each other and players not following instructions, to me, that's concerning as a fan. How do you think that needs to be addressed?
It's just belief in each other. First of all, they need to get on the training field and work on their passing and work on their going forward, their shape and things like that. But also, Davey, again, nails it as well. It's to do with personnel as well. See the second half in Maribor, at Ibrox. That's where we need to be as a team. We were excellent, and the reason we were excellent, and looking back on it as well, we were 20, 30 yards higher up the pitch. And that is borne by a midfield centred around Lassana Coulibaly, who drives us forward, closes down space, presses the game. Our pressing game today was null and void. It was almost like he told them not even to do it. And we look our best under Gerrard when we do press and we do play on the front foot like that. How we rectify what happened today is due to the personnel, how we play, and it's got to be due to practice as well. We are well drilled. We're a good unit. We're a good shape. We're resilient and things like that, and that's all good. But it's absolutely pointless if we're camped on our box for 90 minutes. And we need to learn as a unit and as a team. If Coulibaly's not there, it's up to Ryan Jack, it's up to Scotty Arfield to take our midfield 20, 30 yards up the pitch. And then in turn, it pushes the opposition. It doesn't allow them time. And we can then turn and move. Failure to do that today is down to what I've already spoken about. Maybe a little bit, a lack of bravery. It doesn't overly concern me because we're still kind of something you said there, Ross. It doesn't overly concern me because we are a work in progress. But it does require, when big players are missing, it does require others to stand up, and that's maybe where Ryan Jack hasn't performed today. I expected Ryan Jack to be the orchestrator and take us 20, 30 yards up the field, and he didn't do it. And that goes back to what I said before. To me, we were more concerned and more consumed with stopping Celtic than worrying about what we do best. That is what we need to rectify. And the only way to rectify that is working hard on the training field and getting them drilled. There's no way, in my opinion, that McAllister and Gerrard, Michael Beale are watching that today and they're happy with it. Absolutely no way. We will work on that. We will get better. I've got absolutely no doubt.
Maybe the international break is coming at a good time for us as well in that regard, and it gives us a bit of extra time to get some work done on the training pitch. Look, it's a difficult one because today for me the scoreline wasn't as bad as it could have been with the performance. The performance was worse than the result. And that's left me feeling today very disappointed. And I think for a lot of fans, and me included, today was a wee bit of a reality check. Because things have felt very, very good under Steven Gerrard. And today reminds me that we still have a long way to go on this journey. We still are a work in progress. But at the same time, the league is not won and lost just on one match against Celtic. This is a long season. This is a long, hard season with, in my opinion, other teams that are improving. Hearts look a different force this season in particular. So the league does not come down to today. Us being a success or a failure over the course of a season does not come down to 190 minutes in the East End of Glasgow. There's a long way to go. But I think we still have the right men at the helm. We still have the right coaching setup. I think we've recruited well. So I'm still confident that today hurts. Every defeat against them hurts. But it certainly does not hurt as much as it did 12 months ago.
Ross, can I just come in to just embellish that slightly? I think, seeing the defence of Ryan Jack, I think Ryan's the best performances we've put in this season, Stevie's alluded to it, was in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the second half against Maribor. The system, I think, if there's two midfield anchors, I think that gives Ryan Jack and Coulibaly more safety in numbers. They're more comfortable with that system. You need two anchors there, and the two guys that either go wide or tuck back to give them a hand. It just seems more balanced. Today, Scott Arfield, sometimes he didn't know whether to go forward, when to drop back. Same with the boy over at Ajaria. He was trying to do everything, and he looked dead in his feet. I mean, he could have been substituted early in the match. So I think that's something to bear in mind. Where we don't want to get too carried away. We don't want to get too despondent about whether the management team's the right appointment, all that kind of stuff. I think that's we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think it's important to keep that in mind. This has been a blip. We've had a hard week. We've put a lot into getting into the Europa League group stages, and I think that we don't want to, make a mountain out of a molehill here. I think it's important to bear that in mind.
Right, in the spirit of not being too despondent about things, we do need to remember that over the course of this week we had a result that going back 2 months would have been absolutely unthinkable. And we've secured European football at Ibrox up until Christmas for the first time in what I believe is 7 years. And it's absolutely marvellous, because the way that competition is set up, us going into the first qualifying round, it's set up so that little teams don't progress. I'm not saying we're a wee team, but we've been put in with little teams there. You look at the teams that were coming in around us, and that's because of the shocking coefficient that Scottish football clubs have because of the way that we were treated in no small way, by the way. So for us to progress to the group stages with the Europa League is an absolutely magnificent achievement, and certainly shuts up a certain number of people in the Scottish media who have been very, very quiet. One, Mr. Spears, by the way, who wrote about Steven Gerrard looking quietly terrified of the proposition ahead in Europe, and at the first attempt he guides us through to the Europa League group stages without losing a single game. So he's certainly shown a lot of people up there. We secured that the passage through to the group stages, obviously, with as I said earlier, heroic performance away in Russia, being reduced to 10 and then to 9 men for the last 20 minutes of the game. I was at work personally, having to keep up watching it coming in on Twitter and various updates on the internet, and then I managed to watch the game later when I got home that evening. David, what did you make of the performance out in Russia?
Heroic, Ross. In a word, heroic. Up against it for a significant chunk of the game, but they held firm. Alan McGregor, again, outstanding. And they deserved everything that they got out of the match, and they fully deserved the welcoming committee that they got at Glasgow Airport when they touched down at 1:30 in the morning. So good on the lads. They did us proud the other night.
They certainly did. And I'm glad you mentioned the lads that showed up at the airport as well, because we've not had enough good times at this club over the past 6 or 7 years. We haven't had the good times. So when the good times come, we should not be afraid to celebrate them. We shouldn't be afraid to be overjoyed at how this team does. No matter who wants to tell us that, it's embarrassing for us to show up at the airport, or it's embarrassing for us to celebrate our success. It's not embarrassing. We're celebrating our team. So I'm delighted that, the players had a proper reception at 1:30 in the morning, whenever it was that they landed. Stevie, I asked you, first of all, earlier this evening, if you thought there was a foul in the lead up to the Celtic goal. Obviously, there are 2 more refereeing decisions in the game out in Russia, with Morelos and then John Flanagan being sent off. What did you make of those 2 decisions? Were they both justified red cards?
We'll start maybe with Alfredo Morelos. Yeah, he's definite caution for kicking the ball away. It's Huffy. He then won't go to the official to collect his yellow card. Makes a slight wee gesture and off he pops. I mean, is it justified? I'm a referee. We've said this before, and one of the worst things you can get on a pitch towards a referee is dissent. We don't know what was said towards him. Is it justified on a professional game like that? I'm not sure, because you see players mouthing off at referees all the time. Letter of law, probably. Is it soft? Absolutely. But aside of that, Morelos needs to learn. We know that. John Flanagan, I've still not seen his first caution. Unfortunately, I missed the first 15-20 minutes because the Rangers television wasn't working. So I've not seen his first caution. Second caution was ridiculous. He goes in, he wins the header. Not particularly a good header, but he's first to the ball, he gets connection, and the player goes down. And the referee is it's just a poor decision. It really is. You can tell by the reaction of Stevie Smith. Stevie Smith's played obviously professional football and everything else, and he calls it well on Rangers telly. And you could hear the kind of aghast in his voice when he was talking about it. It's never a red card, but that's the first time in any of the 8 European games that I've had any reason to question decisions by the officials. I think they've been spot on in the games we've had them, which makes a massive difference to what we're used to on a weekly basis and domestically. But no, Flanagan, definitely not. It's definitely not a second caution. As I said, I haven't seen the first caution, so I can't really comment on that. But letter of the law, Morelos, yes, but it's harsh as well. But I'm not sure we can say much more on it, to be honest.
No, I think you're right. The thing with the Flanagan one is that Flanagan's done this before as well. this season is that when he does jump, it almost looks like he's leading with his arm, even though he's kind of, he uses his arm for momentum or for leverage or whatever it is, but he's not really leading with an elbow or anything like that. So it's one of those where I think it looks worse than it is, and it's a really, really soft booking, that second yellow card. But look, I think Borna Barisic was signed as a first choice left back. I think there's no way that John Flanagan at the moment, who I think his last couple of games haven't been as strong as his first few games were, I don't think there's any way that he's displacing Tav at right back. So I think it shouldn't have too many knock-on impacts going into the group stages. I think Barisic and Tav will be the full-backs, and that'll be that. So it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Morelos, on the other hand, suspended for the game away in Spain, will be, for me, that's a bigger miss. As I just alluded to there, the first game's going to be in Spain against our old friends over at Villarreal, and that's got the fans shaking for certainly one reason. It might not be so much to do with the football. Also a game against Rapid Vienna and away to Moscow to face Spartak. David, what's your reaction to the draw? Is that the glamour ties you were looking for, or is that, particularly with Moscow, is that an unnecessary another long away day?
I thought the draw is pretty favourable, Ross. I think that it serves as better to avoid any big guns, especially teams from England. I think that there's, once we go over the disappointment of today and actually look at the possibilities of how many points we can amass, I think we can go into that group and look to do ourselves justice. I'm not saying that we necessarily could realistically expect to qualify out it, although I don't think that's beyond us. It's going to be a test of the playing staff and the managerial staff's mettle. I think that they're on a steep learning curve, but that's the way that Stevie and his staff want it, and I dare say that he'll be imparting that to his players as well. So these players have signed for Rangers to play in these big games. Yeah, they might not necessarily be the most glamorous in terms of European opponents, but nevertheless, they're big games. They're games that the fans can go along to Ibrox and travel away from home and look forward to and enjoy. And I think that if the footballing gods shine upon us, we keep everyone fit and we play to our maximum potential, allowing for the fact that we surely will progress as a team as the season goes on. And I think we might just upset a few of the odds and may well get into the next phase of the competition.
Do you agree with that, Stevie? Do you think that we've got any chance of progressing, or is this realistically as far as we go this year?
I'd never rule out progression, but what I would say is, in terms of, we've maybe got the most difficult, unglamorous ties we could have got. Moscow aren't like an AC Milan, for example, who I quite fancied a wee crack at them from pot 2, just for the whole the glamour side of it. But Spartak are a really decent team, Champions League last year, etc. Villarreal, we know that the teams from La Liga are going to be difficult. Vienna are a bit of an unknown for me. But yeah, just like Davey says, I don't think we'll get anything to fear. But I don't think we can shout from the rooftops that we're going to do this, that and everything. We just take the games one at a time. I hope we equip ourselves really well and see what happens. We've got potential. Maribor again, I harp back onto that. If we can perform like we did in the second half against them, we'll give anyone a game at Ibrox. I'm just hoping that personnel and things like that, we can get these teams at good times for us. But I looked at one of the first things I did actually after the draw was look at the fixtures we had after, and we're at home for 5 of them. We're away, I think, one game. I think that's Hibs on the 27th of October. Now, if we beat Ayr in the Cup, that game will be off. So that may very well be a trip to Hampden that weekend. So that is the only kind of problematic game we have coming back to. I'm not saying the games at Ibrox will be easy, but it's not a difficult away trip to Aberdeen, Hearts, etc. So they've already surpassed my expectations in Europe this season. I think I spoke on the very first pod that was on about what would want to happen. I said that maybe third or fourth qualifier, and if we went out, we would go out to somebody decent. Now that we're in the group stage, I'm just going to enjoy it. I don't fear any of our opponents. I think they're all going to be technically very good and very sound. Difficult, unglamorous perhaps, but let's give it a go. Let's give them a game. Going to equip ourselves really well and see what happens. Why not? Bring it on.
Exactly, bring it on. And this is what we wanted. We wanted to be back in Europe. We wanted to be competing against tough sides. We wanted to, not just go and test ourselves against big clubs. And these are big clubs in Europe, by the way. You say Spartak, Moscow, Villarreal, Rapid Vienna. These are big clubs. But what I'm delighted about is that I think we as fans, we deserve this. I remember I went to Leipzig in Germany last January, and we took over 8,500 fans for a mid-season friendly in the snow in January in Germany, because we travel, we follow our club passionately, unlike any other club in the world. We follow, and finally we're being rewarded for that. Finally, the fans. We've had qualifying games in Macedonia, Croatia, Slovenia, and Russia. In, let's be fair, some difficult to get to places, and I can't remember exactly how many people it was that went to Russia last week. At the top of my head, I think it was 80 something fans that went over to Russia, who have my utmost respect. But for a lot of fans, you know, these games were just a kind of a bridge too far. And I think a lot of fans deserve the opportunity to follow their club in Europe again. And I'm so delighted that we can do that again. You know, I'm going out to Moscow, hopefully, which I'm over the moon about. I know a lot of guys are booking up to go down to Spain. It'll be a cracking trip down there, obviously, if you stay in Bennett or stay in Valencia, whatever you want to do. Vienna, cracking city for a weekend away. So the good times are coming back to the fans, and that's just as important for me as what happens actually on the pitch. You know, if we progress, of course we've got a shot at progression. It's not like we've drawn AC Milan or Chelsea. You know, we've drawn tough teams, but we've not drawn unbeatable sides, and we've got every chance of progressing. Of course we have, because we're a good side. And you know, I think if you're any of the other, you could look at the draw and think, who do I want to get from pot 1, pot 2 and everything. But if you're any other club in that draw, you're thinking there's one team in pot 4 I want to avoid, and that's Glasgow Rangers. Because we're a big club. We're a strong side. We've come through 4 rounds of qualifying without being defeated once. So I can't wait. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I'm just delighted that the European football is going to be back for the next couple of months anyway. David, what does it mean for you to have European football back properly, not just the group stages against a club from Macedonia, but to actually be Thursday nights every other week up until Christmas? What does this mean for you, and what does it mean for the club?
It's a massive part in the normalisation of the club, Ross. Getting back to, you know, Rangers being in Europe, it's a huge thing in the psyche of the fans. You know, it's getting back to getting our Rangers back, if you like. Obviously the financial rewards are there for all to see, but I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's important from a fan's perspective. It's important from a media coverage perspective that Rangers are back playing top level European football again, and they've not, you know, went out to a relative minnow or a team that flirts with qualification in the Champions League through qualification from the league position in the national league. So yeah, I'm enthused. I think we can do ourselves justice, given, you know, as I mentioned there previously in the last question, you know, if the gods shine upon us. So yeah, it means everything, Ross. I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, might get a wee away trip to Vienna in December. So it's massive for the fans. It's just it's good to be back, and long may it continue.
It is good to be back. Stevie, how about yourself? Are you hoping to get a wee trip away?
I've got 1 and 2 year old boys, Ross, I'm afraid. So the boys are my life, so they kind of curtail the away trips for me in the last few years. But you never know. I've broached the subject with the good lady, and I noticed that the boys at the Grape are running a bus out to Vienna, so I've already inquired about that one. So I'm not ruling it out. I'm hopeful, but I think Davey again, he nails it. I mean, this is part of the normalisation for the club again. It's big European nights, it's glamour nights at a noisy, packed Ibrox Stadium. It's where we want to be, and who cares who the opposition are? Let's give it a go. Let's get Ibrox rocking. Let's get behind the team, and let's get ourselves back in the map with a few results and things like that. I'm not saying go and qualify. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying let's go and let these teams know that. Let Villarreal know and let Moscow know that when they come to Ibrox that they were in a game and we've given them a right good go. Let's see what happens. This is David again nails it. This is the normalisation for our club. We are a massive club. We're not a big club. We're a massive club. Our following shows that, and we should be in Europe's group stages every year. And that's might be big headed or whatever, but that's the reality of it for me. So this is it. This is normalisation for our club. We're back with the big guns. Let's get a few of them quaking and see what we can do. Bring it on.
So finally this evening, I think it's only right that we discuss the transfer window, which obviously shut the day after the game out in Russia, shut on Friday, which looked like, initially at least, it looked like that would be the transfer business done. We brought in two signings, obviously. We brought in Eros Grezda from out in Osijek, the Albanian international, and also brought in Worrell, the centre-back on loan from Nottingham Forest. Looked like that was going to be business done, but after the game today, it looks like Stephen Gerrard's confirmed that Gareth McAuley is expected to join up with the squad in the next couple of days. Stevie, you always seem to have your finger on the pulse and have a good little summary of the players that are coming in. What can we expect from Gareth McAuley?
I think he just provides a cover. Basically, I don't think that Gareth McAuley's coming in to do anything other, but McAuley's a really dependable, experienced pro. You're looking at him being fourth choice. He can also variably cover full-back positions. So it's just another numbers coming in. But I'm very excited about Joe Worrell coming in at centre-back. I think he is a tremendous prospect. Today obviously came too soon for him. But I'll be surprised, believe it or not, if he's not starting games very soon. And I think that Grezda is going to be a cracker. I think that he might be the signing of the window, believe it or not. Although, obviously, McGregor and things like that. But I'm very, very, very excited about this boy. He, I think, is the winger that we'll be missing. He's exciting, he's pacey, he's tricky. I think he's a potential match winner for us. And just the way things have started with us being solid and resolute, things like that. He's the one for me. He's the game changer. He's the difference. And I think that everybody is going to be very excited by this boy. I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised by the standard and just how good he actually is.
Well, let's hope so, because it would be a serious vindication of the transfer strategy and the work that Mark Howell and Andy Skolden have been doing, which is night and day from the transfer strategy, first of all, of Mark Warburton, of shopping in overpriced leagues down in England for guys who had promise at the age of 17 but then have gone off the rails and don't have the bottle for it. And also night and day from the transfer strategy of Pedro Caixinha, of thinking, who did I work with out in Mexico? That they'll probably work in Scotland as well. It shows, a significant improvement on the scouting front. It shows intellect. It shows actual analysis of what's needed and who can fill those gaps, and not just looking at who's on the telly, who's on Sky Sports this week, not shopping about in, who did I work with down at Watford in overpriced, inflated leagues for League One rejects and duds. So it's, if nothing else, it's a breath of fresh air. And I think Katic has been strong. Barisic today wasn't as strong as he has been, but by all accounts looks to be a very, very good signing. And if Grezda can carry on in that vein, I think you're right. I think we will be pleasantly surprised. And I think it'll be a breath of fresh air for us, a breath of fresh air in the Scottish game as well. David, how about yourself? How did you rate this transfer window overall? Obviously, I think something like 15 players have come in, 21, 22 players have gone out. What's your overall assessment of the transfer window? It's
been pretty good, Ross. As you mentioned there's been a lot of player turnover, unnecessary churn. hopefully next season we won't see the same amount of bodies leaving and the same amount of bodies coming in. There'll be a bit more stability. I'm fairly enthused by the signings. I echo what Stevie's saying there about Eros Gersnet, and I think he's a technical player, and hopefully we'll get to see him in Scotland play Albania in their opening Nations League fixture. So that'll be interesting to see what he brings. Gareth McCauley, news broke there after the match that he's going to come in the next couple of days. I think that's a decent signing. Gareth McCauley, again, the only drawback I would see with Gareth is possibly his age, and that he might need to play quite often to keep his sharpness up. So we'll need to see how Stevie and the team manage that. Other signings, yeah, I think like the centre halves, I might have made mention of this, to pick the two guys up at central defence for under £5 million. I mean, Mark Allen should get the jail. And the guys in the middle of the park have been well scouted, as you've alluded to. Lassana Koulibaly has obviously been identified as a prospect. And as you made mention of again, Andy Scollins obviously identifying weaknesses in the team. And they're going out and securing players who will address that shortcoming within the playing staff. So, yeah, it's looking good. It's too early to judge, right enough. I mean, obviously, the prizes aren't doled out other than qualification for the group stage in the Europa League, of course, but prizes aren't doled out in August and September. So we'll need to see how the lads perform over the course of the season. When the pitches start to get heavier, I mean, the weather in Scotland's started to turn there in the last couple of weeks. It's got a wee bit wetter. Hopefully, it gets dry again. But as the pitches start to get heavier as we go into November and December, that'll give you a good measure of how the players are progressing. So I think overall that the window we've got to be pleased. I would have liked to have seen possibly another attacking midfielder brought in, but finances might dictate otherwise. That's not to say though that they might still be shopping for free agents and that that someone else may well come in. So hopefully, fingers crossed, the lads do the business and take us to where we need to be this season.
Absolutely. I think one of the best things actually about this transfer window was the fact that we brought in a lot of players. We've released or sold a lot more players. I said 21, 22 players out the door, whatever it was, whether that's end of contract, out on loan or sold off permanently, whatever it might be, which shows, the bloated nature of the squad with players who were never really good enough, never going to make the grade. But what's been encouraging for me was the fact that we held on to one or two really key assets. Obviously, we had West Brom coming in for Tav, a week or two back, and then allegedly came in again on deadline day with a loan offer with an option to buy, which was swiftly booted away. But the main one for me was the fact that we again held off pressure from this time from France. Apparently Bordeaux and Marseille were sniffing about Alfredo Morelos. Held off pressure. Apparently it was reasonable bids came in from them for him. And then the day after the window closed, he goes and signs a new 4-year contract, which for me is massive. I think this boy, he gets such a hard time of it from the media, from pundits, from the opposition fans, from everyone outside the Rangers, and some people inside the Rangers family give him a hard time as well, because he misses chances and his temperament is questionable, although not as questionable as many people would have you believe. But he's a talent. He's raw. He needs work. He might not be a natural finisher, but the work that he does to hold up the ball to bring others into play is top notch. And for us to hold on to him, not just hold on to him in the window, but then tie him down for another 4 years, for me is superb business and is absolutely crucial going forward. Stevie, what was your reaction to Morelos signing a new deal?
Happy about it. We obviously, he is the one that we want to move on for a lot of money. So we've protected our asset. We've made him happy. He gets a bump in wages. There's more incentive on goal scoring bonuses and things like that, and it's a good move for us in terms of what we hope to do with him in the future. But it's up to Alfie. Needs to kick on. He needs to perform like we know he can. He needs to hit the back of the net for us, but he is a vital player. I don't understand the criticism of him because he is so vital to how we play in terms of his strength and holding it up and getting tight on defenders and turning them and things. And more often than not, the times that we played well under Gerrard has been influenced by Alfredo Morelos' performances up front. Today he was on scraps, and it wasn't a best team performance to judge any of them individually. Lafferty's going to provide him a wee bit of competition up there as well. Hopefully Sadiq's going to come on to a game, but I think it's a new contract is best, business sense wise, for everyone. It's going to obviously be dictated by what Alfredo does himself, but he looks hungry, he looks sharp. He's certainly a lot fitter, and let's hope that we reap the dividends of it in the coming week.
David, how about yourself? Where do you come down on the Alfredo Morelos debate?
I'd concur with what Stevie said there. It's protecting and ring fencing an asset. That's the name of the game. Stevie Gerrard's, he's always pointing out in press conferences how important Alfie is to the team. They obviously see him as a player with a lot of potential that's yet to be realised, and I think that with good coaching and good man management, which hopefully Jose Peckerman and his staff can do now that he's been called up to the Colombia squad, we'll round off some of the kind of sharp edges to his persona. And I think we could have a major asset on my hands in possibly a season or a season and a half's time, depending on how rapidly it progresses. But when you look at certain players that have left the Scottish Premier League in the last couple of days, and they've went for big money, and I don't see why Alfredo, given the right levels of progression, keeping them fit and talking them up and making them feel like an important and more importantly a good player, I think that can only do wonders for the lads' confidence. So I concur with both you guys' opinions on him. It's good business, and that's the way we should be conducting business as Rangers Football Club.
Certainly, and it's delighting to see Alfredo Morelos get that call up to the Colombian national squad. There's some good players in that team, and even if he doesn't play over the next couple of weeks as we go into the international break, even if he doesn't play, being around that squad, being around those players, I think it will do wonders for him. It will broaden his horizons. It will give him more experience, and I think as long as he doesn't come back injured, he'll come back a better player for it. That said, we're going into the international break, which means no Rangers now for a fortnight. David, what's your opinion on these international breaks?
Difficult to say, Ross. I'm not exactly up to speed with international football for a multitude of reasons. From a Rangers perspective, it's a well-earned break. The guys need some downtime, need some days off, when they're not kicking a ball and trying to take in instructions from the coaching staff. So from that perspective, it comes at a good time. Hopefully the lads will come back from the international break, whether they're away with their respective countries or whether they're training at Auchenhowie with their batteries refreshed and ready to go when we come to play our next game against Dundee.
No, absolutely. It is. You're right. Sensibly and pragmatically speaking, it's a good thing that the players can have a bit of downtime if they do, or they go and experience football in another environment, if they're joining it with their national teams or if they're going abroad to play or whatever they're doing. But for me, as a fan, I cannot stand it. I sit here now counting the hours until the real football's come back, because I'm not particularly interested in how Scotland get on in a friendly against Belgium or in the Europa Nations League or whatever they're calling it. So I cannot stand these international breaks. It feels like they come around far too often for me, especially since we've just had the World Cup. But there we go. I think that'll probably wrap things up for us tonight. As always, my thanks go out to David and Stevie for joining me on the show this evening. And a big thanks also to Graham, our audio engineer, for all his hard work putting the show together. Of course, we've got the international break this weekend, so there's no domestic football, but there is going to be a special instalment of the Gersnet Podcast. So do be sure to subscribe to the pod to make sure that you don't miss out on that. If you've enjoyed the show, please do rate and review us and let us know your thoughts. You can always head to www.gersnet.co.uk. Check out all the great content that's up on the site. While you're there, you might as well join up to the forum and get involved in all the lively discussion as well. Finally, if this podcast hasn't been enough for you, and if you're crying out for more Rangers content, you should definitely head over and check out our pals at We Welcome the Chase. You can find their show wherever you found ours, and they're always worth a listen. All that's left for me to say is thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next week.